Hey everyone, welcome to the first holiday edition of Your Most Interesting Story. This is Rob, and each episode my co-host Jake and I hear about and dig into the most interesting thing that's happened to someone in their life. These are first-hand, true stories told by the people who experienced them. Today's episode explains how what our guest hoped would be a ho-hum holiday turned into Christmas chaos. Let's hear Sarah's most interesting story.
My name is Sarah, and I've been in hospitality for about 12 years now. And when you agree to be in hospitality as your career, you kind of sacrifice your holidays to make other people have special holidays. So, when you're working in hotels or restaurants on the holidays, everyone else is enjoying their time with friends and family, and we're the ones that are working behind the scenes. They never really bothered me because in a previous life, I was in retail, which is also a lot of nights and holidays and weekends. So I was kind of used to that. And to be honest, I've never really been a fan of Christmas. Even as a kid, Halloween was always my jam. So Christmas, I was always the first to volunteer to work at every job so that all of my coworkers or my staff could enjoy their time with friends and family. About 8 years ago, I was working at a property that was an extended stay discount chain hotel. So the rates were lower. A lot of guests essentially lived on property with their families. You could refer to it definitely as a crack house or a halfway house because it just attracted that kind of client base. But there was also a lot of hardworking families there. I actually grew quite close to several of them. You just never knew what you were going to walk into at the property. We encountered a lot of illegal activity, prostitution, drug use, domestic violence. I was pretty much on a first-name basis with all the police officers in town.
Hotel managers, especially in low-budget or extended stay locations, can be valuable assets to law enforcement. Their daily interactions and observations provide unique insights into potential criminal activity, suspicious individuals, and community dynamics. Building relationships with these managers can create an informal information network, benefiting investigations and community safety.
We were a pet-friendly hotel, so sometimes I'd even encounter pets fighting their owners or two different guest pets getting into a fight. Just anything you can imagine would happen at this property. So once again, I chose to work on Christmas that year. So I'm getting ready that morning, and I put on this stupid, sparkly Santa hat, and I'm like, it's going to be a good day. It's Christmas. Everybody's going to be in the holiday spirit. They're going to be kind. So I'm like, it's going to be a great day. Drove my 15 minutes into work and pull into the parking lot, and there's 3 cop cars. And I'm like, son of a bitch. So I went inside trying to figure out what's going on. They were like, hey, Sarah. I'm like, what is it now? And they're like, there was an armed robbery in one of the guest rooms last night. I'm like, oh my God, is everyone alive and okay? And they said yes. So it was a couple that had been at the hotel for probably going on 2 years at that point. So I knew them well. They were really shaken up. I'm like, guys, what the hell happened? They said that they were out at a club the night before and they had met another couple and they were having a great time. And then that couple's friend showed up. So they invited those 3 people back to their hotel room to continue the party. And when they all got back to the hotel room, the couple pulled a gun on my guests and took their belongings and fled. I immediately went with the officers to the back office and pulled up the camera footage. And we were able to get very clear images of the robbers. I printed those off, gave them to the officers, and was just like, listen, if you put this out on your Facebook pages or whatever, like, please don't mention the name of the hotel. Like, my owners like to keep the name out. You could just say like an area hotel, please. And then I just tried to get on with my day. Several hours later, I was just kind of making my rounds, spreading my holiday cheer, I guess. And I came around the corner and I came face to face with the gunman, the man whose photo I had just printed and given to the police several hours earlier. I'm still wearing my stupid sparkly Santa hat, and he's there with the couple, and I can tell his hands are in the front of his sweatpants, and I'm pretty sure that he has the gun in the front of his sweatpants. And the girl that was with them had my guest's purse on her arm. And I recognized that purse because my guest's name was Dee, and she would come to the front desk to pay her rent every week. So I knew what her purse looked like. And that was one of the items that they had taken from her.
Let's set the scene. Sarah's guest's acquaintances turned thieves who forced their way into her guest's room at gunpoint the previous night and then fled before the cops had arrived, were now standing directly in front of her.
I had encountered them in my hallway on the first floor. Now, you weren't supposed to be able to get into the corridors of the hotel without a guest room key. But I had this jackass that would always go outside and smoke. And he was outside and he would just always let people in, like the freaking doorman. And I would yell at him, like, Wayne, you can't just let anyone in this building.
So is Wayne an employee at the hotel, or is he a guest?
Wayne wished he was an employee. He certainly acted like he was an employee. The lines would become very blurry when people were essentially living on property. We weren't there as much as them, even though we worked 50, 60 hours a week, but they lived there. So they thought that they ran the show. And yeah, Wayne just felt like he had the authority to let anyone in, no matter who they were. Oftentimes he was letting people in the building that should not have been in there. No matter how much I yelled at him, he didn't get it. So like immediately when I see these people on the first floor corridor, I'm like, fucking Wayne. So I put on a brave face and I'm like, hi, can I help you? Merry Christmas. Like trying not to have this shaky voice. I'm scared out of my mind. And they're like, yeah, we were with some friends here last night and they left their purse in our car. We're just here to return it. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Let me have you go back out to the lobby and I'll give them a call. I was like, what's their room number? And they're like, oh, we don't remember. I'm like, well, do you have their name? And they're like, we don't know. And I was like, you know what? Just head out to the lobby and I'll help you at the desk. So I was able to get them out into the lobby, which then they're locked out of like the main part of the hotel. They can go out the front door, but they can't get into the main part of the hotel. And I went around the back. So there's a big room where we did our laundry and stuff behind the front office. And I was immediately dialing 911 as I entered that back room. Now, they could have easily jumped over the front desk and went through the door into that back room. And I was well aware of that. And I was well aware that one of them had a gun. So there was this little closet that was like an access panel to the back side of our industrial dryer. And it's like 1,000,000,000 degrees because it's just like, this gas dryer, just like hot as hell back there. But I squeezed in there and I'm on the phone with 911 and I'm like, it's Sarah, I'm at this property. The police were here earlier for this robbery and the robbers are back. They are in the building. Thankfully, we were really close to the police station and the police came flying in, but they had fled again because I think maybe they were suspicious when I never went out to the desk. I just hid in that back room. This time when they came back, because it was broad daylight and they parked closer to the building, we were able to pull a license plate number off of the car. And the police did catch up to them and they immediately captured them, which was great news. The police were able to get my guest's property back, which was great news. I don't know why they came back. Did they say, oh man, we shouldn't be Scrooges on Christmas and we should return property to these people? Like, I don't know what the heck made them come back, but that's ultimately how they were able to capture them.
Did you ever talk to the folks who were robbed to see if they might know why they returned?
I did. And I don't think they knew. They were just so happy to have their things back and the people were captured. The guy in that relationship, he was a big guy. And I remember Dee, like, she was very upset that, like, when the gun was drawn, he actually just kind of collapsed on the ground and started hysterically crying, and he wet his pants.
Oh no.
And she was there telling the police that, and like right in front of him, right in front of me, my maintenance guy was there, and I was like, gosh, like, you don't have to be so mean. I would do the same exact thing. Poor, I think his name was Maurice, if I remember correctly. Poor Maurice, like, she didn't have to do him like that, but and she was upset. I guess she thought that he could, wrangle the gun out of their hands and save the day.
She was probably hoping for a better display of manliness, I suspect, than crumpling to the floor and peeing yourself.
Yeah.
When you said you could call it a crack house, what's the reason for that? Was there a lot of drug activity going on there?
There definitely was a lot of drug activity. We were one of those properties that, like, if someone was getting released from jail and they didn't have anywhere to go, the jail would give them our info. Like, well, you can go stay here. Because, rates would be as low as like $40 a night. So a lot of people paid by the week. Some people paid by the month. But yes, we encountered lots and lots of drug use. I became like a deputy basically for the police department. They were on a texting basis with me, guys. Like, how crazy is that? They would text me mugshots and be like, is this guy with you? I'd be like, yeah, he's in room 104. Come on over.
The guy that was letting people in and out, what was his drug of choice?
He was a former truck driver who had some sort of injury, like a brain injury. So I don't know that he was on any illegal drugs at that time. It was a lot of medications. Like, I remember having to go into his room a couple times. I've never seen that many pill bottles in my life. And it just like explained a lot. I'm like, oh, that's why you keep letting people into my friggin' building.
So has anyone famous ever stayed at one of the properties you were working at?
Yeah, that's kind of a work perk. You get to meet celebrities. One of my favorite stories is I was the assistant manager at a mid-sized Marriott, and Bob Dylan was in town. He did not come into the hotel, though. He stayed in his tour bus, and a lot of his entourage came into the hotel. So his tour bus is outside. And like, I'm a fan, but that's another rule of hospitality. You can't like fangirl over these celebrities. So my eyes are just fixated outside, right? Like, I'm just watching for him.
Waiting for a glimpse.
Yeah, and he did. He got off the bus and he had like a bicycle and he was riding the bicycle around our parking lot. And there was a man out front smoking, and Bob Dylan rode his bicycle up to him and bummed a cigarette and rode his bicycle away. So that guest came in the front door, and I'm geeking out behind the desk. I'm like, oh my God, what did he say to you? What did you say to him? He goes, what? Who? That homeless guy?
What kind of bike did Dylan ride?
I don't know. He was kind of in the distance. I couldn't see. It wasn't like a mountain bike. It was like a
Not a banana seat.
Oh, that would have been awesome, right? Or like a weird 10 speed.
Yeah.
No, it was kind of like a BMX looking bike ish.
Gotcha. Standard.
The Bacon brothers have stayed with me.
Who are the Bacon brothers?
Kevin Bacon and his brother.
Oh, I know Kevin Bacon.
They play music now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon and his brother Michael have always shared a love for music. Despite Kevin's successful acting career, they formed the Bacon Brothers Band in 1995 as a way to connect and explore their shared passion. They continue to write, record, and tour together, balancing their musical pursuits with Kevin's acting projects.
He was the coolest guy, and my breakfast server got to serve him the next day. He placed his order. She's like, wait, so Kevin Bacon doesn't want any bacon? Are you sure I can't bring you bacon? She's like, I feel like, how many times can I say bacon in this conversation with Kevin Bacon? And he was like laughing.
He's never heard that pun before.
I'm sure, right? So she comes back to the kitchen and she is just like so flushed and excited. She's like, I made Kevin Bacon laugh. I made Kevin Bacon laugh. I'm like, all right, Heather, calm down. That's so cool, though, you know, when you have celebrities in-house, but you can't really make a big deal about it. I actually have a podcast called The Insiders, and it's INN. It's a little play on words there, but I've talked to a lot of guests that have had some like pretty big, well-known celebrities, and they always dish on like, okay, like who was nice and who was a jerk. But I'll just have you guys listen to the podcast if you want all that tea.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a subscriber. Really well done, Sarah.
Thank you.
Now that we're talking celebrities, if there were a movie made of this incident, who would the actors be?
I don't know the actor's name, but Hank from Breaking Bad, he would definitely be the cop.
Perfect.
The actor who played Hank in Breaking Bad is Dean Norris.
Oh man, if Detective Fox ever listens to this, he's gonna be like, I don't fucking look like Hank. And then, oh man, Maurice, I don't know. I'd have to be like a big guy, maybe like The Rock. And then Dee, I feel like Dee looks a lot like Lizzo. And the robbers, I don't really remember their faces. I think PTSD, I've blocked them out or something. And then, freaking Wayne. Wayne looks a bit like Bill Burr, actually.
Yeah, that's a lot of bald white dudes for your cast.
Yeah, seriously. And obviously, I would be played by like Giselle or like, you know, some supermodel.
Of course. What's the wildest thing that you're aware of that a guest left in a room?
Yeah, there's so many things I could say right now. You would find all sorts of like, the industry term, to say it nicely, is marital aids. I don't know if it's like people having affairs or they just get wild in hotel rooms and they don't want to bring those things home with them. But like some of them are expensive, not for nothing. Like you bought this $120 device and you're just leaving it in the room. That's crazy to me. But yeah, lots of that stuff gets left behind. But most hotel policies are that you have to tag and bag those items and hang on to them for a period of 30 to 90 days. And every brand is different. The property that I currently manage is 30 days. Marriott has a 90-day policy, or at least it did when I worked there. And, you know, no one ever calls back for their sex toy, right? They actually do. Some people do.
Okay.
Like, hey, we left something, nightstand. I'm like, yep, do you want to come pick it up or should I ship it to you? If you could ship it, that'd be great. And then it's like, ugh, get out the gloves. Yeah, lots of that stuff left behind. Drugs have gotten left behind. I have found guns. I found what definitely looked like a murder weapon. Like it was stuffed under the mattress and it was like this rusty ass machete looking knife with like a duct tape handle, like a shank. And I was just like, oh, this has murdered people.
Did you ever work at a place that had rooms that you believe to be haunted, or have guests ever complain about haunted rooms?
Yes, my current property is very haunted.
Oh,
We were actually on an episode of Discovery Channel's Ghost Hunters.
really?
Yeah, it's a 160-year-old mansion. And I've had personal experiences with those spirits. It totally freaks me out. There's certain areas the activity is concentrated in that I just avoid now. Like, I just try not to hang out in them. We have paranormal groups come through all the time, pick up all sorts of activity. Guests will call in and they'll be like, can you put me in one of the haunted rooms? And then like the very next call will be like, and don't put me in one of those haunted rooms. We had one guest right before I started. They checked out in the middle of the night because they just were totally freaked out.
Sarah had no idea about the history of the place and had only worked there a couple of weeks before having her own haunted experience. She was alone in the basement looking for something when she felt a tug on her clothing.
And I ran upstairs as fast as I could, and a lot of the staff was up there. And I didn't want to seem crazy, I just started, I'm like, hey, this is nuts. But has anyone ever said this place is haunted? And they're like, yeah. Didn't they talk to you about that in your interview? I was like, no.
That's awesome.
Is it awesome?
Well, for me, who's not working there, it's awesome.
Okay, back to the holiday holdup incident. What did your owner or boss have to say about all this after the fact?
So, of course, it was in all of the local papers. And of course, they used my property name. So, of course, I got a phone call from my owner and my boss, well, now you need to do an incident report. And I was like, yeah. So in case you're wondering, I'm fine. They don't ask you, oh my gosh, how are you? Do you need us to come in and work for you so you can go home and maybe change your pants? I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I'll get those incident reports done for you. Merry friggin' Christmas. But every Christmas day that has rolled around since, and I am still usually working on Christmas, no matter what's happening at my current jobs, I'm like, man, at least I'm not at that property and I'm not encountering a gunman. Anything's better than dealing with that shit.
And that is going to bring Sarah's holiday story to an end. As we mentioned during the episode, definitely check out her Insiders podcast. That's INN Siders. If you enjoy this show, I think you're going to like hers as well. I will put a link in the episode description. Remember that you can visit YMIS Podcast on Instagram for pics related to this or any episode. And we now have a Blue Sky account, also YMIS Podcast. So check it out if you prefer that flavor of social media. Your Most Interesting Story is available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. If you'd like to support the show, you can rate, review, share, and or subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, or you could buy us a coffee. If you want us to tell your most interesting story, follow the link to our website in our show description. Until next time, be interesting. And don't mind the sound of my dog snoring in the background.
We used to put the Happy Meal toys in the deep fryer. We were pantsing kids in the back. We duct taped a new kid, the racks. Just terrible things were happening.
Do you know where to look? You know where to look? Look right there. Yes. Let's go. What do you see? You see people on the screen?